would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whiteline. I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, do not hold that against me. We have arrived. It is Friday. The weekend lays bare before you. Seize it, my friends! I'm not sure what kind of seizing that I'll be doing. I think I've promised two of my sons that we would be building computers this weekend, so I will be in full geek mode as we jump through the hoops and build computers for them. We're going to go for the softer side of real estate today. I realize I've kind of been really harping on some relatively depressing things. Had a nice big reservoir of more things to scare us about what's coming our way in terms of just everything as broad as the global economy all the way down to other interesting signs relating to the local marketplaces for real estate. But today, instead, since it's a timely thing, I thought it would be a good idea to throw some ideas out there on how to get your home sold in the fall and winter. Since we're in that time frame, and there's some folks who need to get it done during this time of the year, I figured it'd be good to go through what the folks at U.S. News and World Reports thinks are the important things to do. And of course, as always, I will editorialize as we go through their top items. And there's actually, what's interesting is there's two separate articles from U.S. News and World Reports on this sort of general topic. One is the 13 things you need to know, and the other is kind of marketing your home during the holiday season. So I figured we'd bundle these two together and move forward and see what we can't figure out. So let's go ahead and, before we jump in, let's go ahead and talk about the usual things we talk about at the head end of the show. If you'd like to get in contact with me, there's a variety of ways to do that. The best way is through the website at therebelbroker.com. You can click on Contact the Rebel Broker, send along any ideas, suggestions, observations, or questions that you might have, and it'll also be a great chance for you to join in, take the survey to support the show, click the red button at the top of the Rebel Broker page. And in addition to supporting the show, if you use the same email address, both times you're asked during that process, you will be entered to win a $50 gift certificate or gift card for Amazon.com. So that's great. You're helping the show, plus you're giving yourself a chance to win $50. We already did one drawing on October 1st. And congrats to the winner of that $50 gift. And of course, we're going to do it again November 1st. So still time for you to jump in and potentially be a winner. So head on over to therebelbroker.com, click on the button at the very top of the page, take the survey to support the show, and you're all set. And finally, if you want to join the Rebel Underground, text the word Rebel Broker to 44222. That's text the word Rebel Broker to 44222. By joining the Rebel Underground, you get access to all kinds of stuff that will be coming down the pike in terms of special stories relating to real estate, early access to new content that I'm going to be creating, whether it's video content or PDF forms that you can use when you're going through and analyzing properties, or just good information in PDF forms so you can keep it with you, or online seminar type things. Anything that I'm going to be doing that's going to be offering you more knowledge or more information, the folks who are part of the Rebel Underground are going to get that first. So to join in, just text the word Rebel Broker to the number 44222, and we'll be able to get you involved in that list. So you're part of the underground. All right, let's jump in. I'm ready to go. We'll start with the 13 things to know about selling your home in the fall and the winter. Number one on their list is to use photos from springtime. I realize that's a difficult call for a lot of folks, simply because if you had known you were going to need photos of your home In springtime, because you're going to sell your home, you probably would have sold your home in the summer. Or maybe you just weren't ready. But then again, if you weren't ready, you probably weren't ready to take pictures in springtime. Number one reason I find that folks end up delaying the decision to sell their home is because it's going to take them forever to get their home show ready. Well, and your home kind of needs to be show ready in order for you to take pictures of it. So this is a kind of a goofy suggestion on their part. Now, it's going to depend on the time of year. When you are in the wintertime, I think it's absolutely crucial to try and very carefully pick when you take your photos. You can do a perfectly wonderful winter set of photos if you live in a snowy area, and there's really no way around that. But you're going to want to make sure that the entire property looks as good as it possibly can look. And be nimble about your photographs. Just because you've taken the photos and you've put them in the MLS doesn't mean it has to stay that way. You can go with the absolute best time you can find, and normally what I find is to pick the optimal lighting scenario. I usually like to go between 10:30 and noon when I go to take the photos, at least the exterior photos of my clients' properties, just because I tend to get the best exterior lighting. If it's wintertime and there's tons of clouds and there's rain, you may not be able to get around that. But here's what's great. Guess what? It's 2016. With digital cameras being what they are, you're not burning up film every time you take photos of the home. So if you find yourself in a situation where you've got a day where the weather is fantastic, call your agent and ask them to come out with a digital camera and take some new photos of the exterior of your home. That would be an excellent option for you, and it would be a way to update it. And once you update it within your MLS system, the odds are that all the other sites are going to inherit that, whether we're talking about Trulia or Zillow or any of the others. They'll inherit that new photo, and if they don't, your agent can actually go in there, log in, and manually change the photos so that they reflect the better version. Is this a gigantic, huge deal? It really depends on your assessment of your local marketplace. If you're in an area where it's much more of a buyer's market, absolutely. You want to take advantage of every single advantage that you can, and having the sexiest photo of your home as that poster picture is going to be crucial. So if you can get something that really takes advantage and really depicts the best of your home on the outside, that's probably the best way to go. I've had some people suggest that when it's this time of year and you're taking photos, don't have your poster photo be an external shot of the home. I tend to disagree with that unless you have a absolutely stunning, outstanding feature that's inside your home. If you've got a photo that just really is a dazzler that makes a certain area look fantastic, whether it's a kitchen or a living room or whatever, maybe. Most folks want that and are so conditioned to expect that front shot of your house as that leading photo that they come across when they're shopping. I think it makes them wonder one way or the other. And so you wouldn't want to use that strategy if it's a little bit softer of a seller's market or if it's a buyer's market. You want to absolutely not have things that make people wonder why you did it that way, because the first thought is going to be, well, what's wrong with it? But in those scenarios also, if you do have your poster photo, the primary photo of your home not be a front shot of the home, that front shot of the home should be somewhere in the selection, because you don't want them suspecting that the outside of your home must look really crummy because you didn't make it that front picture. Okay, number 2 on their list, curb appeal still matters. I would call this the duh element of this particular list. Of course, curb appeal still matters. And remember, we've got hurdles. This is a hurdling game. The very first hurdle is your online presence. How does your home look online? Are the amenities that are listed in your property accurate and reflected in a way that encourages folks to want to come and look at your property? Do the photos encourage folks to want to come and look at the property? Are any other tools used that really ramp up the probability that you're going to encourage someone to take the next step and actually physically visit your home? That's the first hurdle to get over. The next hurdle is the drive-by. And the drive-by is way more common now than it used to be, simply because the addresses are all included in most of these listings, so folks can easily do a drive-by without bringing their agent along. So you want to make sure that your home is attractive from the curb, even in the wintertime. That means dealing with the leaves. That means keeping all of the things growing in your yard under control. That means taking care of any small aesthetic things that might be distracting about the front of your home so that it isn't distracting, so that everything looks really well maintained. Now, you can argue that folks may need to see potential, but here's the deal. Anything that they see in your front yard that looks like it's been ignored for a long period of time is going to be seen as a deferred maintenance problem, which they are going to translate, whether they consciously do it or not, into a concern about the home in general. If you can show from beginning to end, from your internet presence to your drive-by presence to your inside presence, that this is a home that's been well maintained and the folks have been keeping the attention to detail at a higher level, you're going to have a lot more confident folks coming in. And that mental attitude, particularly, again, if we're in competitive marketplaces, is going to make a difference on whether or not they decide to make an offer on your place or the place they just looked at that maybe didn't fill them with that confidence that this was a home that had been very well maintained over its lifetime. So it's a deceptively influential element, not only to draw people in to look, but also to give them that confidence that this is a well-maintained home. So curb appeal, I think, is extremely important. Next on their list, there's little room for indoor maintenance mishaps. This is absolutely true. You need to make sure that all maintenance items are taken care of, because here's the thing. Folks are probably going to turn on your water faucets. You're going to see how long it takes for the hot water to show up. There's a lot of potential things that folks are going to want to do. If you've got a ceiling fan, when they flip that switch, they're going to expect the ceiling fan to come on, or make it real, or have a very clear understanding of how that device is controlled, particularly for folks who have those cute little remote control ones, right, with multiple buttons that might control speed of the fan. The other button might control the light and how bright it is, all those types of things. You don't want to have a showing where this stuff doesn't work. And most important for this time of the year is your boiler or your heating system. They're absolutely going to want, and this is something you need to have as a standard thing you do. Whatever time of year it is, this is whether we're talking about summer months or winter months, if it's cold, when they walk into your house, you want it toasty and warm. So don't have everything off. If you're someone who's one of those folks who just says, you know what, I'd rather wear an extra layer of clothes than pay an extra $50 or $100 or $200 in my heating bill, please recognize that. Make your home toasty and warm for the folks who are about to come and look at your home. Consider that a well-spent $4 to heat up your house for folks who you're not going to see, simply because that's going to make them feel good about your house. If it's the summertime, it's the opposite, right? You want to make sure the air conditioning is working. Whenever I do an open house in the summertime, I make sure it is frosty in the house. Just because that's the impression you want to leave, that not only does the air conditioning work, it really works. Wintertime, not only does the heat work, it really works. And this is also a time for you to potentially showcase really cool things that aren't obvious. Like, do you have subfloor heating? Do you have the radiant heating that comes up in the bathroom? If you do, make sure your realtor has a sign out that says, hey, don't forget we've got this great stuff that you can set to turn on at 5 o'clock in the morning, so that when you come in at 5:30, your feet are going to be toasty and warm. Anything that isn't super obvious, that particularly is going to be a standout thing to them, because remember, these are folks who just came from outside. They're probably cold. They're probably wet if it's the middle of wintertime, depending on where you live. And anything that is a feature of your home that would be a solution to that state, right? Being cold, being wet, whatever. Make sure those are called out and obvious in your home. By having your home be super nice and toasty when they come in, you absolutely let them know this home is heated, and they're going to assume it's well insulated and all these other wonderful things because of how comfortable they are. And if there's little signs around, I like to even use little goofy icons so that there's a graphical element to it, to point out features that absolutely will play into the time of year to make them aware of it. All right, next on their list, the more light, the better. Now, this is an interesting one because we're also heading into a season where you're likely going to have an opportunity to enhance the lighting of your home. If you are showing your home, and normally when you want to have your home shown, you're going to want to not be there, right? You want to make sure people feel comfortable with it. So, and they'll be accompanied by an agent for the showing. So you normally won't be there. So you want to have the place set up for the showing when you leave to facilitate it. that translate into in real world stuff? All the lights in your home should be on. You should actually turn on the lights throughout your home whenever you do this, whether it's daytime or nighttime or not. But also be conscious of the idea that sometimes you'll be there and folks will be doing the drive-by. So you need to get into the habit. Remember, we don't live in our homes the same way we sell our homes. So you need to get into the habit of having all your exterior lights on at nighttime. Just get into the habit of doing it. If they're on timers, redo the timers. The odds are that folks are going to come in the middle of the day, and it may still be dark out in the middle of the day, right? We've got cloud cover. We've got potential darkness. So make sure you're taking full advantage of whatever illumination you have in the house and put it on a timer so that it's even on during the day, during the winter time. Next, and we're going to talk about this actually as it relates to decorating for Christmas time or during the holiday season. Just go with just white lights, string lights if you're going to put lights out, because that can also enhance your home by giving it more light. So just and go understated. We're going to cover that in a couple minutes, but just something else to put in there where you can use it as an opportunity to actually put more lighting on your house and frame it even better in terms of the lighting that you're using. Now, we're going to move on to the next point in just a second. We're going to take a quick break, so don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner-broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going down the, what is this? Who are these guys? U.S. News and World Report's 13 things to know about selling your home in the fall and the winter. One is just get yourself prepared for the fact that there will be fewer showings. Don't take it, and this is something your agent should be preparing you for. Typically, the days on market can get a little bit longer in the wintertime. Again, it really depends on what's happening in your local marketplace. If I were to get a listing right now to sell during the wintertime, I would calibrate my folks to the idea that the amount of days on market I'm telling them right now may be longer. It would depend on what area in Silicon Valley I was listing it. But given the activity I'm continuing to see, I would absolutely tell them that I still expect that you'll be able to get this home sold in a relatively short period of time. And if I was to list your home right now, my guess would be that we'd at least be in escrow by the time we hit the new year. This may change, be different in your area. Things are still going relatively fast in a lot of areas here in Silicon Valley. And if I was to list something closer to home here or in Gilroy, I'd prepare my folks for a longer potential time to get the home sold. Now, there is a positive flip side to this fewer showings coin. The reality is that the folks who are continuing to look during this time of the year tend to be way more serious. So the odds are that you're going to get somebody that the folks that are showing are serious, which really emphasizes how important it is for you to follow through on all these other things we've talked about. Your folks who are looking in the wintertime may also be pushing for the idea that they're going to get a better deal. And again, it's going to depend on your local marketplace. I find that even in the wintertime, last winter, this was very true. I'm not sure if it'll be true this year, but last year, while we did see a reduction in the number of people, we tended to see the same number of offers actually being made on properties. Why? Because while the pool of buyers was smaller, it was the most serious folks who were still dragging themselves around in the cold and in the rain. So that we ended up with still having multiple offers at about the same levels as we had in the summertime. So keep that in mind. And again, the things I just described were very much Silicon Valley specific things. And we have seen a little bit of a softening. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see in our area, you see a little bit less of that dynamic. But I still think you'd probably, instead of just seeing 3 or 4 or 5 offers, maybe you're going to get 2. But I still think you're going to get an awful lot of action, even in the wintertime, in this particular market, in a lot of the markets within San Jose and other areas within Silicon Valley. All right, next on our list, marketing may need a further reach. Now, this is one that annoys me because the bottom line is the task of marketing is to get as many eyes as possible on your property, so that you can hopefully get the greatest price with the greatest terms and the greatest conditions possible. And one of the things that realtors do is when you're tending to see a very strong seller's market, they're just going to throw that thing in the multiple listing service and go with it and see what sticks. There's an awful lot of agents who do that. I'm not a big fan of that. My feeling is that you should always be going full bore on your marketing when you're putting a new home out to market. You need to make sure that your agent is doing the same thing. Now, the point that they're trying to make here is that you may need to go to further distant areas. And yeah, I can see what they're talking about, but that's the kind of thing you'd hear from someone who was talking about how to market a home in the 90s when the internet was less prevalent. The internet is where people go to find houses these days. So this idea that you need to put advertisements in these far-flung communities is a little bit less important. I'd say a lot less important. But what they're pointing out here is that you need to, quote, widen your pool of potential buyers. They recommend targeting people relocating to your area for work or those looking to have a second home in a different climate. Yeah, that's true, but you know what? Those people are doing the exact same things every other buyer does. They're going up on Realtor.com, Trulia, and Zillow. So maybe what you do is increase some mentions within your listing that it's a great home for reasons that relate to its location in terms of weather and that type of thing. But I really don't think that marketing your home necessarily to certain far-flung regions, specifically in terms of anything you would do otherwise, anything you do in addition to what you do all year round, I don't see that as being a huge bang for the buck. If your agent is going to try to charge you more for that, definitely don't accept that. This should be part of anybody's marketing plan, and you would want to ask them, what is your marketing plan? And again, this you should expect the same answer every time, not whether it's winter or summer or anything else. How are you going to get me the largest number of eyes possible on my property, and what sorts of things are you going to do on the internet that will draw people who are looking to move to this area from all over the country? So again, this is one of those things that it shouldn't be a winter specific thing, but for whatever funky reason, they're kind of treating it like that in this particular story. Next, flexibility helps. According to this article, winter can create additional obstacles for buyers, from kids, sports, and clubs taking up evening and weekend hours to surprise storms that can throw off a scheduled meeting. It helps to be flexible when setting a closing date, which can range from taking 4 months to seal the deal to the buyer needing the home as quickly as possible. This is less of a thing where I am. I mean, this is California. The worst we get is rain. And for those of you who haven't ever been to California, we react to a few drops of water from the sky the same way most people react to a blizzard in other parts of the country. So we're not real weather resilient people out here, as evidenced by how our people's driving is affected by a few drops of water. So I actually would say flexibility is always good, not just because of weather. We've talked about an awful lot of things on this show that I think make it important for you to try to embrace flexibility as much as possible, whether or not it's a shortage of appraisals, whether or not it's lenders that suddenly need more things in Section 1, termite reports fixed, whatever it might be. I think going in this with a flexible mindset in order to achieve a goal is far more healthy than expecting absolute adherence to every aspect, all the things that are scheduled. Not that you shouldn't be. I mean, you should absolutely manage all of those things, but be realistic and don't get frustrated when you see that you're having to adapt and having to move a time frame. And if you're concerned about that, always give your close of escrow more time than you think. If you're trying to plan trucks, moving furniture, if you're trying to coordinate with other things like you're moving into another house, always say, okay, everyone involved, how long is this going to take? Let's say the largest number someone gives you is 40 days. Make it 50 days. Give yourself that buffer. Why? because then you can plan and you don't have to worry about the potential problems of having to reschedule a moving truck, which may not be available at the new time you need it and may cost you more. So just build that all in at the front end, and that way you're going to be a lot happier, and your sanity level is going to be able to be maintained. Don't expect a price explosion. According to this one, as a seller, you shouldn't have to settle for less than your home is worth just because you're marketing it in the fall, but be prepared for a little less fire behind the offers. I think this is a relatively reasonable statement to make. As I mentioned before, there are going to be folks who are going to be coming in to get deals. But what you might find is that the offers tend to hover close. If it's still an aggressive market like mine, where it tends to be far more seller-oriented, you may find you're in multiple offers, but the average of them is going to be lower in price. And because the mentality for a lot of these folks is, we're expecting to get a deal. All right. Next on our list, taking on more responsibility may make things easier. According to them, fall is a busy time for everyone, not just home buyers. Your listing agent is likely to have personal commitments like kids' football and soccer games, which can complicate showing your home or holding an open house. He says taking on some additional showing tasks or foregoing a real estate agent and selling the home yourself may help to avoid scheduling problems. I would not necessarily agree with that. I think it should be a cooperative thing. You should be it should be team sell my house. And on that team is you, your husband or wife, or whoever your significant other is, your kids, if they're involved, whoever else lives in the house, and your agent. So yeah, again, be flexible. Figure out a solution to accommodate buyers, particularly at that time of the year, so that you can get the deal through, make things happen. I think that's really what it is all about. Their next point is too much seasonal decor can be a turnoff. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. We'll talk about that in a second here, but you normally want to keep it a little bit muted. Don't go totally crazy. Remember, you're trying to appeal to as many folks as possible. Highlight seasonal pluses, so things like a fireplace. In my area, that is huge. If I have folks who have a functioning fireplace in their house and we're showing in the wintertime and it's cold outside, and they can do it safely, I like it if we can have a fire going in the fireplace, because I think that kind of stuff is awesome. But anything that's great about your house that really shows off a feature that is sort of weather specific, I always encourage you to take advantage of that. You don't want to go too far, just like the folks who put tons and tons of things out in their front lawns when springtime comes, whether it's a whole bunch of those little troll guys plus the little flag that says springtime, and overdoing it is not a great way to go. Less is more in a lot of cases. And as we get closer to things like Thanksgiving, you might want to take your home off the market for that period of time just so you can enjoy the season. Unless you've really, really got to sell, I think that it's probably the best move for you to take it off of the market once you hit Thanksgiving. You're going to have a lot of things going on. It's hard to tell with most folks what their schedule is going to be. A lot of folks really cut loose in terms of not looking anymore at that time of year. Just take that last chunk of the year off and then come back into the market, say the second or third week in January. And I think you'll find yourself able to still push through and maybe keep yourself just a little bit more sane. Okay. And of course, take all of this with I may have to adjust it for my local market. Your marketplace, as we said, with everything else, is going to really be more of a guide to you on what things make sense and what things don't make sense. And finally, let's go ahead and hit this article real quick that they have relating to decoration tips for the holiday season. We'll just run through these real quick. For exterior decorating, keep the tinsel, garlands, and most of those blow-up characters in storage. That's just a little bit too far. You want to keep a little bit more simple and understated. Your entrance should be simple and uncomplicated. Use more natural elements. For fall, add pumpkins, stacks of hay, corn stalks. Don't forget to plant some mums. You can also prepare the home for spring now by planting daffodils and tulips, if that's your thing. For winter, group poinsettias and use evergreens to create floral arrangements. These would all be above and beyond. Clean and tidy is good if you're someone who doesn't want to do all of this digging around stuff. Just clean, tidy, and nicely raked is good enough. For winter, let's see, where did we go? Door wreaths, I think, are great, and that's an easy one. You can buy one of those locally. The more fragrant ones are nice too, just sort of set the stage. But a door-wreath welcome all to your home and set the stage for celebrating. Use holiday colors that work with your home's exterior colors. Use a few strands of white lights for elegance or keep to a color scheme. Forget about the multicolor strands this year. And I agree with that. I think, because it serves two purposes at that point. It actually lights your home on the outside for folks who are looking at it when it's darker. And remember, in the wintertime, it's going to be darker a lot more of the day. And a lot of folks are going to be doing these drive-bys after work. So it'll be a little darker then anyway. Let's see. And they put in here, most importantly, refrain from objects attributable to specific religions. I would argue that is probably in a generic way a good suggestion. Why introduce that preference to one faith or another in terms of dealing with your buyers? But I also get that folks like to express themselves, and so from a strictly disassociated setting it up to sell, yes, I endorse that idea. The idea of me specifically telling someone not to put that stuff out annoys me a little bit. So on a personal level, I'd say go with it. Okay, now inside, set the formal dining room for Thanksgiving or Hanukkah or whatever. Have the dining room table set for kind of a celebratory meal. I think that it gives context to the room, obviously, but then also invites that sort of feeling of celebration. So I think that's good. This is a big one, and this is one I've had to talk with a lot of folks about. Your Christmas tree. Make sure it's not oversized. I am one who in the past who has absolutely broken this rule. Of course, I wasn't selling my home, but I found the place in my house that could accommodate the absolute tallest tree that could physically fit in my house, and I wanted to put that sucker in there. And I had some pretty high ceilings, which meant that at the base, the thing was like 30 feet wide. So not a good call. You're going to make your place feel an awful lot smaller if you go that route. And it's all about making a space feel functional. You don't want to get a tree that's taking up too much of the area. So it should absolutely be appropriate to the scale of the room that you have it in. You shouldn't have to be turning sideways and doing weird things to navigate around it. Just make sure you're doing something that isn't really sucking the space right out of your room. Use natural elements to bring in texture and interest, like an evergreen garland or pine cone centerpiece. Color is also important to keep in mind and make sure you keep within a color scheme. Red is not only the color of Christmas, but it's an emotionally appealing color that can be used in the space. Don't forget to think about what the holidays mean, then create the scene in your home. Would your buyer love decorating the tree, creating a gingerbread house, or sitting by the fire? And I think this is a direct conflict, I think, to some of the stuff they were trying to say earlier about specific religions. Depending on what it means to you, you're clearly showing your preferences there. One thing I would suggest, as a man who has a family that does this, we have a bazillion Christmas tchotchkes, things that end up all around the house, whether it's a manger scene or one of those little snowbound cottage neighborhood-looking things that you string together with lights, all that kind of stuff. Definitely keep that. Continue to include those things, but just don't have them on every surface. I have 3 sons who have grown up in my house. So every year we've accumulated more and more stuff, which means every single available surface has got a Christmassy thing that ends up on it. Take that back a step. Make them more of a central attention thing as opposed to 1,000 central attention things. Okay. Finally, they say, play into using the 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste to make buyers emotionally connected to the space and feel at home. So here's the overall thing. If you've got one of those great little music services that does seasonal music, leave that on. So if you've got DirecTV, if you've got Comcast, if you've got Dish, if any of those, all of these servers have like some segment of channels that are stations per se, right? For whether it's jazz or whether it's classical or pop or whatever. They always have a seasonal channel on these things. Set it to that and leave it on. Have your home set up in as cheery a way as possible. Have all of those lights on. Have the heat cranked up, not to the point where you're sweltering, but that it's nice and cozy. And you are absolutely going to dazzle that person who comes into the front door, who's chilled to the bone, looking for their next house, and they walk into this environment that is absolutely as as wonderful as they could possibly imagine. And that's a great way to start. They haven't even seen a bedroom, a bathroom, or a kitchen yet, and they're already feeling welcomed by the space. And that's what you want to go with. You absolutely want to win that war of perception before they've even taken more than 2 or 3 steps into your property. And remember, we've already talked about those steps began on the internet, wrapped around a drive-by, and now they're in the house. So you want to make sure all those things work together to just slide them right into your house and make them just love it before they've ever even seen all of the rooms. All right, folks, I hope that's a little bit helpful. And I absolutely am appreciative of the time. Your most valuable asset in life is your time. And the fact that you are willing to spend some of that with me, I consider to be a great honor. And I hope that in return, I'm able to give you some insights and some things to think about relating to real estate that can help you move forward, or maybe just entertain you for a little while during the day because you, for some strange, bizarre reason, you love hearing about real estate stuff. Thanks again for listening, everybody. I'll talk to you all next time, and have a great weekend.